My name is Justin Trader. I served 10 and a half years in the United States Marine Corps. Semper Fi. I was a federal police officer in D.C., and then I went to the private sector, and I eventually started my own business, veteran small business here in Salisbury. We do firearms classes, teach you safety and responsibility with firearms. I wrote a little something today just to present what we are here for. So, since this country's inception nearly 240 years ago, even prior to that, people have always looked for a way to defend themselves, their families, their property, and their interests from violent men who would seek to take from the defenseless. Our forefathers were the best and brightest of their generation. They were doctors, they were lawyers, they were tradesmen, military leaders, inventors, and forward thinkers. The men who were bound together under the common cause of liberty from oppression and resistance to all forms of tyranny, from the local tax collector to King George III. The reality of these threats were evident to the framers of our Constitution, who resolved to better their situation through word and deed. Back then, as it is today, the implementation of the laws contrary to true liberty had run completely amok. Back then, as it is today, all of the proper channels were used in an attempt to come to a peaceful, amicable solution between the colonists and mercenaries of the Crown. Only after repeated attempts to resolve the issues of the day by writing a redress of grievances did they realize the validity of these efforts. Shortly afterwards, the 13 colonies declared their independence from the boot heel of the Crown. This is where it gets important. The United States Constitution was written for a time where men created a better future than the one that they were currently living under. It is the only document of its kind to restrict government intrusion into the lives of its citizens. The problem with the laws is that men with power can bypass and even flagrantly break them, and that is why the Second Amendment is included. Dare I say, emphasized. These men of vision included the ultimate safeguard to protect our rights, freedom, liberty, property, families, and the future of our young nation. When the intended systems of checks and balances have been corrupted to the point that the government is no longer representative of the people, it is the duty of free men to correct this course as evidenced through the founders' collective writings and subsequent actions. The Second Amendment can certainly be used for hunting. It can also be used for collectors and recreational shooting. These are mere side effects to the issue of the core of our nation's core discussion. The Second Amendment of the Constitution was put in place as our last means of defense against any and all who would wish to do harm upon the citizens of the United States, more so from tyranny within. A great man once said, "Shall we expect a transatlantic military giant to step the ocean and crush us at a blow? Never. All the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined, with all the treasure in earth in their military chest, with a Bonaparte as a commander, could not by force take a drink from the Ohio, or trek the Blue Ridge in a trial of 1,000 years. At what point, then, is the approach of danger to be expected? I answer, if it ever reach us, it must spring up amongst us. It cannot come from abroad. If the destruction be our lot, we must be ourselves its author and finisher. As a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide." That man was the 16th President, Abraham Lincoln. These words remain truer today than he could ever known. The true litmus test of a government's intention lie in their actions and laws aimed at the erosion and replacement of the Second Amendment. We today are living under a government that our founders warned us about. It's been said that it's too late to work within the system, and it's too late to shoot the bastards. There are men today who still believe in the Constitution and what it stands for, It's our duty to have them represent us with that truth at the center of what they do. Mike Smigiel is that guy, and I stand with him and fight for our rights, liberty, and freedom.